Hi, my name is Sarah, and this is the second part of kind of the background information discussing my experience with hormone replacement therapy. Again, I'm 9 months into therapy. I'm just talking about my own personal experience. I am a counselor. Hey, I wore a little makeup today too, partly because it's New Year's Day and we're supposed to look a little rough on New Year's Day. But partly because I apologize. I got a lot of hair that I'm kind of not feeling good about. But I'm doing hair removal. I have to let it grow out so that her wax will grab it and, excuse me, yank it out. It hurts really bad, but it's worth it. Darn it. So I'm going to review just a tiny bit about what I talked about in the previous video and then talk a little bit about um, the experiences I've had by adding the estrogen to my treatment protocol. So again, my presenting problem was libido, not really gender dysphoria. I had incongruence where I felt like I was out of place, but it was really just one part that felt out of place. And then it wasn't causing me that much distress. So um, I had done tons of psychiatric and mental health type of treatment to no avail. And so I had pretty much concluded that it was not a psychiatric problem, not a psychological problem, not a mental illness that was um, leading me to the road that I was on. Um, so I got on hormone replacement therapy, and I spoke in the last one about how that the testosterone blocker reduced my tension, it stopped my mind from racing, kind of made me feel fuzzy at first, but then became a new normal that I really like. But today I want to talk about how estrogen changed my experience. I can kind of separate them out. There may be a combination, but it may be that things take longer than I think. So I may be saying that things that estrogen did were not really what estrogen did. Um, but it did take a while for it to get up in my bloodstream, and I would notice significant changes every time I would up my dose, and I did get to where I could feel like that it would wear off, at near the end of my dose. So I started on 2 milligrams, I went to 4, and then I'm on 6 now, and it's still kind of low, so, um a lot of what I'm saying I observed is over time because the effects of estrogen were a little bit slower because it took longer to get into my bloodstream. So um, I guess everyone wants to know about appearance changes because it's really important to a lot of people. It's not that important to me. It's kind of an inconvenient side effect, but it's worth it. Um, I don't think that in 9 months my appearance has changed that much. I do have some breasts now. They're not very big, probably less than A's for sure. I have kind of a holiday belly too. I need to work on that. God dang it, I hate it. It comes so fast. Anyway, I don't think my facial appearance, a little bit more hair, maybe not really. I don't think my facial appearance has changed dramatically. I do notice some change in my muscle. I don't have quite as much definition, but I'll talk more about how estrogen has changed my experience. So, um, the main things that I've noticed about adding estrogen are emotional, intellectual, um, neuromuscular, could be neurological. Again, I talked about in with the testosterone blocker that my restless legs went away. It took me a little while to realize they were gone, but so it could have happened later than I think, but I think that was from the testosterone blocker. But sensory as well. So the sensory changes were something that kind of freaked me out. It just I didn't know it happened until I realized it. So it happened later. I noticed it later down the road. One day I went outside and I forgot my sunglasses. And I didn't notice it, which was rare for me because my whole life I've always been a squinter. And any picture of me as a kid was always squinting. Open your eyes, open your eyes. I can't, I can't. I was pretty much sun blind. The light would just be overstimulating and I couldn't take it at all. Fluorescent lights were the same way. They would blink to me. Old computer monitors, they blinked really bad. I couldn't had a hard time tolerating that. So light was something that sensory-wise I really struggled with. Um, but after, hormone replacement, I don't anymore. I can go outside with just these glasses. I'm not gonna stare straight at the sun, and if I'm pointing at it and it's really low, like at sunset, it's a little blinding, but I consider it a lot more normal. I can go outside without sunglasses and actually process the light. I don't squint. Other lights, the lights of the camera stuff, used to not be able to do that, and I can do that now. Other sensory things that changed was my more visual, but it was that eye contact, didn't affect me quite the same way. I noticed that, in other types of videos I've done before I transitioned, my eyes would be moving all over the place, and, because I couldn't do the eye contact very well, it was overstimulating, and since transition, that's a lot different. I don't feel overstimulated by eye contact anymore. Um, there's another sensory one that I can't forget. Oh, sounds. Um, Conversations in crowds, parties, etc., used to really overstimulate me because I couldn't track it. I would try to keep track of all the conversations, and then I couldn't keep track of one, and it was just like this mental wrestling match all the time, trying to focus on one conversation without focusing on all of them, and then just not getting overwhelmed by not be able to track any of them. But I don't have that problem now. I can, track multiple conversations, but I can also focus on just one. I don't get overstimulated by it. It's been really fun to be able to be more social, go to parties, and have a really good time. Um, so it's really interesting to me from that perspective because I had heard that relationships between autism and being transgender, gender dysphoria, gender incongruence. And the symptoms that I described are probably kind of autistic. And my therapist friends would say I'm probably autistic. My family has a lot of autism in it. So um, it's interesting. I saw a research paper that was talking about this phenomena, and they were talking about how it is pretty common for people with autism who had autism diagnosis to get relief from symptoms, big relief from symptoms from hormone replacement therapy. And the conclusion of that research that I read was that maybe it's not autism that causes gender dysphoria, gender incongruence, but maybe it's the gender issues, the medical, the hormonal system issues that are causing the symptoms of autism to appear. So it kind of goes backwards from what people thought. People would say that, being transgender is a symptom of autism, but now it might be that the bigger picture of what transgender means, which I think it means a lot more than gender dysphoria, um, might be causing the autism. So anyway, those are some of the sensory things. Neurological, I felt right away, pretty much right away, that I had different control of my muscles. I felt like my balance was better. I stand on a Bosu ball at work almost all day, and I turn it over so it's the squishy side's down, so it's unstable. I'm standing on one leg right now. My balance has just really improved. My fine motor skills have really improved. When I first transitioned, I really felt like I had an athletic advantage because I still had my strength from testosterone because it was not out of my system that long, but I had better fine skills. But after about 7 months, 6 months maybe, saw the definition of my muscles go away, and I didn't feel nearly as strong either, so it wasn't an advantage for very long. So better balance, better fine motor skills. I feel like I can move my muscles in a different way. It feels like I'm much more into self-preservation mode and using my muscles more efficiently, to get the effort done, I complain a lot more. I feel like that I'm not as strong, but I'm smarter at how I approach the struggle. I'm a mountain biker and I like to climb steep stuff, so it's a big mental game as well as a physical game. And I feel like I'm going a lot slower and protecting myself a lot more, but at the end of it, I'm going my times are better, so I'm just approaching it less frantically. Um, so emotional emotional changes were dramatic, and so, I may do more. I would love to get questions from people. Um, so emotional changes, I describe it as it felt like that my emotional world went from black and white to color. It became much more nuanced and much more vibrant. Um, Mixed feelings were a lot different. I used to kind of get stuck in black or white, it is or isn't, yes or no, analysis paralysis that would lead up to, an unsolvable problem and really wanting to solve a problem because I like to do that. Um, but then just kind of getting spun out and paralyzed because there's no solution to it. It's mixed feelings. Something that I have read is also a um, characteristic of autism. Um, When I transitioned, it was a few months, but and probably 6 months in, it just felt like everything was mixed feelings. Everything is, yeah, it's a little this, a little of that. It was just a lot easier to, process. Um, when I talk about, emotions being more vibrant, I don't know if intensity is the right word for it, but it's just more information. There's just more data that comes with the emotion. There's more nuance, and then there's just more detail. Um, excuse me. Joy and sadness were two that I felt much more. Um, they had much more data to them, and I experienced them, um, with a lot more information than I had before, and I experienced them more often. Love too. Love was a big one, especially self-love. Um, Looking in the mirror was usually something that was really uncomfortable for me, and pretty soon after transition, um, I like looking in the mirror. I still do. It's weird to get up being old. I'm 61, and to look in the mirror and just to feel every day that I look better than I did the day before, and to really like going, "Oh shit, I look really good." And I know that is somewhat psychological because, partly it's because my eyes are getting less, good at focusing, so I don't see the things quite as much. Um, but I think part of that is related to how my emotional and intellectual world, meet. So when I said intellectual, um, I was kind of talking about emotional intelligence because with mixed feelings and being able to really see the nuances and to get a lot more data from the emotional system led to a lot more clarity, a lot more emotional regulation. Um, it's just like my mind is working right now. So again, couple of things that I really don't feel like I have a psychological disorder. I don't think gender dysphoria is my diagnosis. I think I have a medical issue where my body doesn't process testosterone worth a darn, and it needs estrogen to function properly. Um, 9 months into hormone replacement therapy, and things I think are going pretty well. Um, it's not perfect, but I feel like that it's a very much an improvement from where I was.